This is on Odd Lots, of course, and it's just hugely
This
successful.
little show.
Well, what's great about it's a set of conversations that amend to what the markets are doing. Joe Weisenthal and Tracy Alloway here dominating out on Apple Podcasts with Odd Lots. When you guys go into meetings, how do you treat this great bull market?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I mean, I think the issue here, and everyone will say the same thing, is like no one was really expecting it to last this long or be this strong. So there is this like wave of uncertainty, this head scratching that comes about when you start talking about stock prices and loose financial conditions in the face of the highest interest rates in decades.
I also think people have this sort of intuition that everything must be paid for, in the sense that 2021 was this huge boom, speculative mania, Robinhood options, crypto, etc. And then like we have to like pay for that excess, right? Like this idea that's like, okay, we had the fun and now the pain. And the pain like lasted like 5 minutes. Exactly. And now we're like back. And I think that really messes with people's sort of like intuition about how the world works.
I'm going to frame this, and then Damian, you pick up. So I have no social life, as we all know. We're seeing this in an Odd Lots way across a lot of things. Lines for Hampton's real estate. Yep. Are you north or south of the highway? Okay.
Which is the south? North is farther away from the beach, right?
That's right.
Okay, north.
Okay. The lines in the Hamptons. The luxury stores are packed. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And you've got this wealth creation, Damian, in the equity market. And this is what, Odd Lots, looks at, again, with loose financial conditions.
That's right. 3 words, loose financial conditions. Joe, I have to say, it's your work on looking at just, supply, logistics, globally speaking. Yeah. I know that's one thing you're really focused on. And then I see this headline coming in today about Biden eyeing Chinese shipbuilding subsidies, and this renewed focus we're going to get in an election year on trade with China, and how China's going to be the whipping boy. I mean, how many of the people that you speak to are really focused on that? I mean, how many are investing alongside that theme?
I do think it's a big theme, but I also think it's like a complicated theme that's easy to get wrong. I mean, look, I think how many people would have guessed that, given both Biden's election and the Inflation Reduction Act, that clean energy stocks would be this massive winner. Right. And I don't think they've done anything special. I think it's really tricky, and there are many things that are intuitive. You know what I think is, like, if you look at like construction companies or just the companies like doing the HVAC, right? Just like the simple stuff. All of their lines are up and to the right. Like I think is Steve Eisman, right, Tracy?
Yeah.
One of his big themes.
Yeah, I want to talk about your show, like the grind it. And folks, they've always got like 3 or 4 things going on. But you have a guy, and I love this. He's in oil and gas at General Electric as the chief financial officer. He then wanders over to Perkin-Elmer, which is basically an optics semiconductor defense contractor. And then he ends up curing COVID. Tell me about Jamie Mock today.
Oh, Jamie Mock is the CFO of Moderna. He hasn't been there for that long, but he came on the show basically to talk to us about what Moderna is doing and what a CFO kind of does on a daily basis. And I'm very excited to say I finally got to ask a CFO a question that I always wondered, which is when they roll out of bed in the morning, is the first thing they look at the company's stock price?
They look at Bloomberg and they listen to surveillance.
Of course. I'm sorry, Tom.
First they do that, then they look, then they pull up, then he types in mRNA.
And then if it's down, what do they think? Yeah. Like, is the impulse immediately, oh my gosh, I have to do something about it? Or how do you get through those sort of down cycles?
I found it really refreshing, because what I expected him to say, like most executives, is like, well, we're not worried about the stock price for the long term. Yeah. The stock market will do its thing. And I found it very refreshing. He did not say that. He's like, actually, we, sure, day to day there's noise, but we have to listen, and there is a dialogue with the market. We have to take seriously what investors are concerned about. And we know this is true because we know executives respond to what the markets care about all the time. It's nice to hear someone admit it.
Well, Joe, I have to ask you, I wish you would have asked him, how many calls is he getting every day from Wall Street investment bankers, specifically Jefferies, where my niece, Molly Steinberg's a healthcare investment banker. How many times is she calling on the CFO of Moderna trying to find out how he's going to allocate his capital in this environment? I mean, what's your thoughts there? I mean, how does he want to invest to grow the future of Moderna? Okay.
Well, the interesting thing that he said was that actually a majority of his time is spent on negotiating timeframes with investors. So it's figuring out what they're thinking about in terms of returns. Right. Is it 2 years? Is it 10 years? Right. And trying to figure out some consensus on that issue. I thought that was super interesting.
I don't care. The only reason we're doing this is Joe, 1987. I can remember this. There was a Kerrville Folk Festival, and then there was this crazy thing with 12 people, Tracy, in Austin, Texas, called South by Southwest.
Oh yeah.
First of all, did Light Sweet Crude play South
maybe
by
next
Southwest
year.
this year? It's not the same as it used to be. What is it now?
I saw like all these bands pulled out this year because they protested that Raytheon was one of the sponsors of it. Like it's come a long way from when I was in college, and it was just like people like hanging out and going to free shows, and now it's like this huge corporate thing. I knew it was washed when like in like 2013 or something, there was like the CNN grill had set up there. It's like CNN is like setting up there. It's just like now it's just this big like corporate festival.
Well,
but
Joe, you know,
I guess there's still good
Goose
bands
is
there.
playing 4 nights up at the Cap. They just announced in April. So Capitol Theater up here in my neck of the woods, Portchester. I mean, we all know that Joe Weisenthal is a hell of a guitar player. So
I'm not Tom. I'm not
Tracy,
Tom.
should you guys go to South by Southwest? I could see it. You
We
know?
actually debated
we
going
almost
this year.
did.
Actually, Joe, you couldn't, right? Wasn't there a wedding or something?
Yeah.
Or, like, the date didn't
that's the
quite
funny
line
thing.
up.
I actually am going down to Austin this weekend, but not for South by Southwest, just for a wedding.
I've never been. I would go.
I live vicariously through Tracy Alloway's life.